Suomi is one of RuneScape's most controversial players, but he was also the first person to truly beat the game. Before doing so, he was even invited to the game's headquarters to celebrate, but at the last second, they revoked the offer and muted his account multiple times. They even released an update soon after that some believed was just to sabotage him. Pretty soon, you'll understand why. Suomi's story starts the same way a lot of players did. He discovered RuneScape in 2001 when he saw other kids in his local library playing it. The graphics and gameplay were simple and repetitive, but you'll soon see that Suomi loved repetitive tasks and was quickly hooked. Early on, he set his sights on getting his fire-making experience to the maximum amount, something that had never been done before. In fact, nobody even knew if there was a maximum. Suomi just knew he liked fire making and wanted to be the best. With the help of some friends who were going for woodcutting levels, he was able to quickly rack up experience as they left thousands of logs on the ground for him to burn. Although he wouldn't hit the cap until much later due to school taking up most of his time, he did manage to quickly achieve and surpass level 99. Like many players, he would soon set his sights on obtaining the game's rarest items, more specifically the green Halloween mask. He didn't know how to get one though, and had to ask others for help. They recommended that he mine and sell coal to earn enough money to be able to buy one from another player, and that's exactly what he did. He would spend weeks mining coal and selling it to other players for 100 GP each. Eventually, he was able to afford his mask and a few other nice items. But he learned soon after that the market price for coal at the time was actually 200 GP and he could have earned much more. Slightly discouraged, he went back to mining coal as he now wanted to collect the rest of the game's rare items. Soon after, he purchased every color of party hat in the game and a Christmas cracker. However, not long after this, he was scammed for all of them. Over the next few years, he would play the game on and off, quitting and rejoining multiple times. But one thing stayed constant. During his first 3 years with the game, he never bought membership. But when he eventually did, it was catastrophic. A little while after RuneScape 2 launched was when Suomi finally decided that he should buy membership. Now, if you're anything like me, getting membership was magical. It made me more motivated than ever to play the game, especially when so much new content was now available to me. But Suomi was the exact opposite. About a month into his first experience with membership, he wanted to quit again. As you probably know, membership unlocks most of the game's best training methods. It significantly speeds up every skill in the game, and Suomi hated that. He felt like all the time he spent in free-to-play was just wasted. He was actually one of the first free-to-play players to achieve 73 rune crafting, which is a pretty significant milestone, and honestly just torture. So I could see why learning how much faster rune crafting was for members could be really discouraging. So he loaned his entire bank out to some friends and quit again. When he eventually started playing again, unsurprisingly, those same friends didn't want to return what they'd been loaned. So he did what he did best, grinded everything out again, but this time with membership. As he neared the end of school, his love for RuneScape continued to grow. By now, players had discovered that every skill in the game had a cap of 200 million XP. Once you reach this cap, you can't gain any more XP in that skill. This discovery had given Suomi an idea. After he finished school, he would have tons of free time, and he decided that he could maybe spend that free time reaching the 200 mil cap in every skill in the game. An insanely ambitious goal that nobody had ever achieved. In fact, nobody had ever even gotten close. If you wanted to do that today in old school RuneScape, even with all of its faster methods and improvements, it would take you a minimum of 13,500 hours, or 562 and a half days. And that's if you were to play 24 hours a day perfectly efficiently and use the best methods. methods, most of which require something called tick manipulation. Essentially, you manipulate RuneScape's clock to get much higher XP than normal. It's more or less like playing a rhythm game, but with birds and logs instead of anime girls. Around the time that Suomi began to take his RuneScape goals more seriously is when he discovered posts and videos by a player named Zarfot. Zarfot was the first player to bring playing efficiently and tick manipulation to the game's community. He's really the godfather of RuneScape's current day efficiency culture. So I guess depending on what type of player you are, he either ruined the game for you or made it more fun than ever. Now, Zarfot took the game seriously, but Suomi would take it to a whole new level. Once he finished school in 2008, he would more or less dedicate his entire life to the game. To give you an idea of how much he played, he achieved his first 200 mil fletching in December of 2008, and just 8 months later achieved 200 mil fishing. Best of all, he didn't even stay for his 200 mil fishing party. Tons of players gathered around to congratulate him, but as soon as he hit his goal, he teleported out and was on to the next 200 mil. This picture of his party doesn't even have him in it. He truly took the phrase "no XP waste" to the next level. After this, he started to be more open with his goal of achieving 200 mil all, and made a decision that would later cause him to become one of the game's most controversial players. He started asking others for donations so that he could level up the skills that cost money without having to spend time earning it himself. At first, he would just ask his friends, but then he started joining random clan chats and asking everyone in them for money. Something to keep in mind is this was back when RuneScape had a trade limit. The maximum amount of money that you could give someone for nothing in return was a measly 60,000 gold. As you might expect, Suomi wanted to take these donations efficiently, and players had to learn a technique that would waste as little time as possible. But he surprisingly managed to rack up millions of GP this way from his supporters. Over the next few years, Suomi would continue to focus on 200 mils, and by 2011, he had achieved 8. You'd think by now that he would be on the front page of the high scores, right? He was surprisingly not even close. The way RuneScape's high scores work is it's sorted by levels first and XP after. Suomi had an impressive amount of XP, much more than many on the front page, but he was missing quite a few levels. Surprisingly, he had chosen not to get 99 in every skill before embarking on his 200 mil all journey. He had already received tons of hate by asking others for donations, and he figured staying off the front page would keep more potential negative attention off of him. He did this until Jagex announced the Max Cape, a cape that provides incredible, somewhat overpowered benefits to those who have one, and the only way to get one would be by reaching 99 in every skill. In just a few months, Suomi rocketed through the high scores and landed himself at rank 5 right before the cape released. This is around when he would start his YouTube channel, where he would discuss what he was doing, give his thoughts on the game, and prove to his haters that he didn't actually look like this guy from South Park. Although he enjoyed making videos and would upload hundreds of them over the next few years, this channel is ultimately what would lead to his downfall, and in the meantime, it would cause more trouble than it was probably worth. Because Suomi relied on donations, he had to keep his private chat open to the public almost all the time. This meant that if you knew what skill he was focusing on, you could almost always track him down in-game. As his channel began to explode, he gained thousands of adoring fans, but at the same time, a ton of haters. They would track him down in-game and attempt to sabotage his XP rates. He had dealt with this before, but never on this level. At the same time, he was becoming a fairly large public figure within RuneScape, and along with it came a lot of opinions, and the negative ones would all weigh on his mind pretty heavily. He'd say in videos that it was a lot of pressure, and felt that he had to try his best to be perfect, which is an impossible task. Regardless, he pushed forward, and on September 12th, 2011, he reached rank 1 on the RuneScape high scores. But as you know, this wasn't his end goal. He still had over 2.2 billion XP to gain to get 200 mil in every skill. Luckily for him, he was in the home stretch, and at his current pace could hit the goal in just over a year. But then something pretty unexpected happened. Jagex launched a new feature called the Squeal of Fortune. By spending real-life money, you could earn spins on the squeal that rewarded you with XP, special gear, and even GP. Suomi was just crushed. He felt the same as when he bought membership for the first time, but worse. All those years of time could now be fast-tracked with real money, something that many would go on to do. He silently quit for a few months, but because he was so close to his goal, he returned soon after. He tried to quit again in September and October, soon before the launch of the widely hated Evolution of Combat update, but returned for the same reasons as before. Now, those that watched Suomi's videos back then know that he wasn't afraid to speak his mind. He had made it very clear to everyone that he no longer enjoyed the game and didn't trust the direction that Jagex was taking it, but he couldn't give up on his goal in the final stretch. Unfortunately for Suomi, this honesty would get him in some big trouble pretty soon. As he approached the final bit of XP he would need to reach 200 mil all, he received an offer from Jagex. Hold off on getting that final XP point, and we'll fly you out to Jagex, all expenses paid, and throw a party to celebrate. We'll even launch old school RuneScape while you're here. Suomi agreed, but it wouldn't be long before Jagex took their offer back. Suomi was joking around in Castle Wars one day, and perhaps took things a bit too far. It was enough to cause a nearby player moderator to mute him, and this was back when PMod mutes were 48 hours. Suomi was very upset by this, and uploaded a video to his channel bashing Jagex, although he claimed multiple times that it was just a joke. But Jagex didn't think it was funny. They saw the video and everything else he had been saying about the company on his channel and took back their offer. Suomi panicked and uploaded a video apologizing to Jagex and even sent multiple emails begging for them to change their minds. But it was already too late. They refused to invite him back. To make matters worse, a Jagex moderator later investigated his account and discovered his worst crime of all. He was e-dating in his private messages. I know, the horror. Well, Jagex sure thought so, and decided it was worthy of a mute multiple times. Which is pretty ironic considering Zezima had gotten married in RuneScape, although I guess we don't know what the messages were exactly, so they could be bad, I don't know. Regardless, Suomi kept playing RuneScape, and even got hooked on old school RuneScape for a bit after that launched, but he didn't gain that final experience point. Now this is when the sabotage part comes in. In March of 2013, Jagex released a limited time event where you could catch a new creature called Gothixian butterflies. They were pretty much everywhere and would give you XP in whatever your lowest skill was at the time. Suomi logged in one day and accidentally misclicked one, getting him that final experience point. Worst of all, he couldn't celebrate this achievement because he was muted again the same day. In a video, Suomi blamed Jagex for this mistake happening, saying that the butterflies were some sort of hidden update meant to sabotage him. Although it's unlikely that's completely true, lots of his fans agreed with him, and clearly someone at Jagex didn't like him. As you can imagine, he soon distanced himself from RuneScape almost entirely. He came back for a minute when the divination skill released, but disappeared again soon after. In one of his final videos in 2014, he would discuss his overall feelings on the game. He cherished his memories and all the friends he made along the way, but he had no plans to return, and the public's overall view of him clearly still weighed heavily on his mind. He was already a pretty controversial figure before all the events leading up to him gaining that final piece of XP, but for many, his actions in the months leading up to it solidified him as a horrible person. Suomi Suomi has since disappeared off the internet pretty much entirely. His hundreds of YouTube videos are now deleted, and he hasn't made an appearance in the community in years. Overall, I think Suomi may have gotten more hate than he really deserved, although it's sort of hard to tell when almost all of his content is gone. But I know he had a passion for this game unlike anyone before him, and you know, I really do hope he's in a better place today than in that video. If you enjoyed this video, you should check out the one on the right, which is about the first year of RuneScape. It was absolutely lawless, you could PK anywhere, there were actual wars. Check it out on the right, I'm sure you'll love it.